On November 30th, 2022, the technology landscape changed. That was the day that OpenAI launched ChatGPT. Within a week, it had 1 million users. By the end of January, it had 100 million. And it now has about 1.6 billion visitors every month. It had the fastest rate of adoption of any application in history, and it started a lot of conversations. First, there was the raw hype around it. Some saw the technology as more than human in its ability to reason, and certainly the first step in artificial general intelligence. And there were the people who were more skeptical and saw the technology as a parody of reasoning, with no intelligence behind it whatsoever. Finally, there were the fearmongers, the people who saw language models as the beginning of the end of humanity, eclipsed by superintelligent AI. This hype, counter-hype, and fear was not surprising. We get it a lot in AI. Normally I'd say, well, the truth is somewhere in between. But I must admit, this time is ridiculous. These are not conversations about technology. These are rants coming from people either marketing their products or responding to the marketing. Let's be frank. ChatGPT is certainly not smarter than we are. It is certainly not the answer to all our problems. And it is not an existential threat to humanity. Nor is it just hype. It is an incredibly powerful and incredibly useful language tool. It is a tool that can do a lot for us if we let ourselves understand what it is really doing. And that's the trick of it. If you understand what it's doing, you can do a lot with it. If you don't understand what it's doing, you're going to try to use it to do things it was not designed to do, and things will go badly. The first thing is to understand that ChatGPT and other large language models, or LLMs, were designed to generate language and be incredibly fluent when they do so. They are so good at providing fluid and fluent language that it seems like they are considering what you have typed. They're figuring out what it means and then responding with thoughtful answers, just like people. How could we think otherwise? We only have one other example of anything that uses language so well: us. So they must be doing what they do in the same way that we do what we do. But they don't. Here is what they really do. They take in a set of words and then use them to predict the next one. That's it. They guess the next word. Like this. Chicago is often called the Windy City. Chicago is famous for its deep dish pizza. Personally, I prefer buffalo chicken wings. Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota. This is what ChatGPT does and what LLMs in general do. They're designed to do one thing: guess the next word. Now, it turns out that they do so astoundingly well. They may start with Chicago is often referred to as the Windy City, but they continue from there, using the initial prompt and then the words that they themselves have generated as a source of the next word, and then the next, and the next, and the next. So, Chicago is often referred to as the Windy City becomes Chicago is often referred to as the Windy City due to the strong winds that blow off Lake Michigan, particularly in the downtown area. However, the nickname is also believed to have originated from the city's history of boasting and self-promotion by its politicians, journalists, and promoters, which metaphorically refers to the windy nature of their claims and speeches. LLMs use the words that are in the prompt, the order in which they occur, how far away they are from the word under consideration, and an assessment of how important each of the words is to calculate the set of words that are the most likely to come next. And then they pick one. Each word that is generated is the result of a system looking at the words that have come before and guessing what the next one should be. They predict what the next word should be, and they do so astoundingly well. Are they search engines? No. In fact, they are the antithesis of search engines. They don't hold on to anything except the relationship between collections of words and the words they predict. Are they repositories of fact? No. They are devices that guess the next word. Databases? No. There is nothing in them to look up to begin with. Are they reasoning engines? No. They have no access to facts to use as grist for the reasoning mill. When they generate the truth, it is because the words at the beginning of what they have said predicts the words that follow. Remember that LLM stands for Large Language Model, and that's what they are, models of language. They're fluent, they're facile, and they encode relationships between words. They encode how we use language, and in doing so, they capture something that looks like knowledge, but isn't. When an LLM finishes, Mount Rushmore is in South with Dakota. It's not because it knows that Mount Rushmore is in South Dakota. It finishes with Dakota because that is the word that is the most likely to come next. And given all the documents that it has seen, odds are that it's right. So when you use them, remember they're not thinking about what's true. They're calculating the most likely next best word. Thank you, and stay safe.